Welcome back everyone to another episode of Lynch Paint, where today we're diving back into the Horus Heresy with a painting guide showing you how to paint the brutal World Eaters for your Space Marine Legions. Now before we dive in, I just want to say that the first section of this tutorial, I forgot to connect my mic properly, so it may sound really crappy and tinny, but just please bear with, I was a silly goose and forgot to link them up, but it's only the first few minutes. And as well, I've got a new Discord server. You want to join me over there and have a little chat and hang out? That'd be grand. And if you're new, welcome aboard. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button, and also at the end of the video, comment on what you think of my painting guide. So without further ado, let's grab our butcher nails and chain axes, and let's dive straight into this. However, before we get started, we're going to need a selection of paints, and these are all the ones I've used in this video today. It does look like a lot, but the wash over here and then these two over here are optional. They're for weathering purposes. So in terms of our brush loadout today, we're going to need a small selection of brushes, starting out with, of course, a medium-sized basing brush. I'm going to need a secondary basing brush. We're going to need a ratty, fluffy, crappy little brush from Metallics, and of course our lovely teeny tiny brush for all of our teeny tiny places, and maybe a little bit of a sponge or two. So here we are with our lovely chosen miniature. So I've given it a white acrylic primer, just going all over the model, and I have kitted him out suitably for being a World Eater. So I'm going to start out with some apothecary white. So I got this medium-ish sized brush. I'm just going to wet it first, and then what we're going to do is that we're just going to take this, I'm going to run it all over the armor panels. So just as we're waiting for the white to dry, we are just going to take some of this Cantor blue and mix it with the Lothran blue. About 50-50, but it does depend on how dark of a blue you'd like to use. I'm sure that there is definitely at least 5 different shades of other blue between these two, so if you have them to hand, then just use that instead, but I just have these two blues, and that's just what I'm going to use at the minute. So when painting onto a white surface, it's going to show up a bit brighter than what you're currently seeing on your mixing pad. So with this, I'm going to make it a little bit darker than I probably will end up using. And then when it's dry, I can then start to just lighten it up to my desired shade. And of course I was a bit of a silly boy and I used the contrast just over the backpack because I wasn't too sure whether that it was blue or if it was just the vents, but it is the entire thing, so I'm going to do that as well. And also, at this point, you can pick out a knee guard as well if you like, and give that a nice little blue treatment. So now we're going to move on to building up our blues to a lighter tone. And with this, you can either use a little bit of this lemon medium, or you can use some water, whichever you have to hand. So I've gone back over the blues just with a second coat, so don't be afraid if when you put down the first coat it looks quite streaky. That's just all part of the process, so do not worry, always put down a second coat if you are always unsure. So it's going to go ahead and pick out the majority of the blue areas, and then we can start just using the medium or using your water, whatever you choose to use, to do a little bit of wet blending just to build up our blue tones. So we'll be slowly building up our shade of blue, just introducing more and more of the Lothran blue or whatever sort of lighter blue that you have to hand. until we kind of end up with almost at a highlight level sort of shade. And for this, we're just going to start just to do a bit of a heavy highlight just over our miniature. I think this might be a little bit too bright just to use on the shoulder pad, but let's just have a look-see. So it's not too bad. I can try and blend that back in. Obviously, using the medium or water, it will thin the paint down. So if it does look like that it's almost a bit too much of a bright blue, too much of a step with your blending, then what you can do is that you can either just let it dry, and then it won't be as bright, or you can always just dip in a little bit of your previous darker tone and then just feather it and just kind of soften that line up and blend it back in again. So now we're going to move on to highlighting the blue areas. So you can use whatever size brush that you like. I'm just going to use the same one as before. I do apologise about the audio quality. Previously I was a bit of a silly goose and hadn't clicked to connect my mic, so it should be sounding an awful lot better. So it's going to start out just with like the kneecap. And a great little tip is that you don't have to use the very tip of your brush for highlighting so raised areas. You could just use more of the side of the brush, and this will give you a lot better control and nice smoother finish. And again, just thin it down with using a little bit of your medium or water, whatever that you're currently using for this tutorial. And if it does go on to, so like these bits, is not too much of an issue because that little joint there, I'm going to paint a bronze. But do be careful not to get it onto the lovely white armour, and yeah, just have fun. And of course, don't have to highlight the entire area of the blue parts. You can if you like, if you're that way inclined, but I'm just going to just pick out a few areas just to get the point across that there is some highlighting going on, but I haven't gone completely mad with doing it. Once we are happy with our blues, we're then going to move on to using this Black Legion contrast. So with this, I'm just going to pick out all the areas like the under armour and all the bits that we will want to put on some silver. So again, much like with the blues, just be very cautious about getting too close to the white armour, because we don't want this getting onto it. But of course, as it is the Horus Heresy, you might want a little bit of overspill, maybe like here and there, just to show a bit of weathering and that sort of thing. So it doesn't really matter too much versus the more clean and sort of frankly cartoonish sort of look of the 40k miniatures. With this, you can be a little bit more liberal with your weathering techniques. So now that we're done with the Black Legion contrast, I just wanted to mention that I went over the shoulder pads as well on the trim, purely because it is much nicer to, when using your metallics, to go over a dark surface area rather than a light surface area. It just shows up a little bit better, makes it look a little bit crisper, and also you don't need to do as many coats. So I highly recommend doing that. I know that obviously it's primarily quite the white model, but yeah, if you're planning on using any metallics, go over it with either the Black Legion contrast or equivalent of, and yeah, you'll get a much nicer finish. So I'm just going to start to introduce this wash. So it's from Vallejo and it's a Desert Dust, and it's a rather lovely colour. So with the majority of the World Eaters, they're kind of portrayed and sort of painted with this kind of dust on them. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this medium as well, just to thin it a little bit, because of course we're going over a white model, or primarily white. I don't want it to be too intense, so I'm just going to apply this mainly kind of round the legs, and then we'll leave it to dry, and then once it's dried we can then sort of reassess it, have a little look. But I just wanted to show you guys this other sort of wash that I do sometimes use, it gives a lovely effect that I just wanted to just show you guys all about it. So I'm going to try and blend some of that bit going up the side there. So I've just kind of wiped off the majority, and I'm just going to just go at it to the side, just try and feather it, try and blend it in. Granted, yes, I have used maybe a little bit, poured out a little bit too much of this wash, but yeah, is what it is. It's a really big bottle. It's going to last you ages, but I do recommend it. So we could also take some of this and then just kind of sling it around just a few other areas where there's kind of like dust and grime is going to settle, just to add in that little bit more sort of battle-worn, battle-hardened warrior look that the World Eaters are very, very famous for. So I may have gone a little bit overboard with using this Vallejo Desert Sand wash just over the model. So he's looking a little bit almost like Death Guard rather than World Eaters, but when you look online for them, they are very, very, very weathered. So we can always just tidy it back up and introduce a little bit more white later on. But for now, just while it's drying, I'm going to grab some of this Warlock Bronze. And then just using a small brush that's ideally a little bit knackered. You don't really want to be using a nice brush when using metallics unless you're going to clean it out thoroughly. And with this, we're just going to go over the trim and any other areas that you'd like to be this kind of darker gold bronzy sort of colour. So next up, we are going to be taking some of this lovely brass scorpion. And again, using our little kind of brush from before, we're going to do a bit of a heavy dry brush. Now, I very lovingly went over the shield beforehand with the Iron Warriors and Rune Planning Steel, and I thought, you know what, it might look better in this kind of brassy gold look that we're going for. So again, with this, just a nice kind of heavy dry brush, just going over the top. All of the bronzy, brassy bits. Doesn't matter too much if it's too heavy of a dry brush and it kind of washes out some of the previous colour from before. It doesn't really matter too much because, of course, at the end of the day, you're going to be painting an awful lot of these. So long as it looks sort of like this or as good as you want it to, then that's all that matters. As long as you're happy with it at the end of the day, that is all that matters. So one of the final steps I'm going to be doing is using this little tub of magic known as Guilliman Blue Glaze. If I can just get it right. And we're just going to use this, of course, over our blue areas. Just blend it all in a little bit better and just add in a little bit more depth as well. And also what it would do is, as you can see around the bottom there, it's going to just sink into the recesses a little better, and it'd be great for doing the backpack as well. So that means you don't need to use like null oil or any kind of deeper washes to get into the recesses. Of course you can do if you want. If you don't have access to this, that's fine. But instead of using black and just using this really, really dark blue, it's going to provide a really lovely effect. So one of the last steps is that we are going to do the eyes. Now I'm pretty sure that the eye lenses for the World Eaters is green. So what we're going to do, I'm going to have a little experiment. I'm going to start out with some yellow. I know you might be thinking what the heck, but trust me on this. So we're going to take some yellow. And we're going to very carefully just do a little blob near the front of the lens, or rather the middle of the face. Kind of just like that, just nice simple. A little bit of yellow in the middle there. Now, of course, we're going yellow onto black, so it might turn out a bit darker than we need, but we can always kind of touch that up afterwards. I might just do a second little blob right at the front, just to add a little bit more depth. Cool. So now what I will do is, where have we got it? There we go. So grab this lovely Beltan green. And this is going to be our nice wash to go into the eye lenses. So very similar to how I did with the Thousand Suns video, but I'm just going to try it with green because green makes a much better lighter tone than it does with white. So we're going to just plop this into there. There might have been a bit too much. There we go. But if it is too much, then what you can do is wipe up some excess, and then you can use the capillary actions of the brush, and that will help just to draw back some of that excess green. There we go, just so it's down to the right sort of shade that you're after, and that's a really nice, easy, quick way of doing the green. So one of the last steps is, of course, we're going to be doing the icon on the side as best we can. And of course, yeah, some blood effects. I mean, you know, well, we'll do that afterwards, but we're going to do the icon first. So I'm going to clear some space and get that sorted. So then, I've got my red and also some medium as well, just to help out with thinning down my paints. So I'm just going to grab a bit of this, put it on the blue. Why not? Just so I can at least see which colour I'm doing. So, I'm going to grab a bit of this. And oh, there's a lot of spikes on this, a lot of teeny weeny tiny spikes. So yeah, wish me luck. Teeny tiny brush. Let's go. Alright, time for the bonus round. So we are going to do a little bit more on the weathering side. So we have this Mornfang brown and this little bit of a sponge. I'm going to dab some off. I'm going to use this. I'm just going to just very haphazardly just lob a little bit on here and there. Reason why I went for brown rather than for a black is purely because, well, it's quite a light armor color anyway, so it doesn't have to be black. You can do if you want to. It's entirely up to you. This is, like I say, a bit of a bonus round, so it's entirely optional. I do recommend if you have tweezers or something like that, you can really kind of get in with this, then definitely use them. It's a bit tricky just using my hands here. But yeah, just kind of bit here and there. Just kind of work it in as much or as little as you like. And maybe just a bit round its hand here. Dab a little bit more on. Too much. Yeah. Cool. chest. Why not? There we go. Now, of course, what you've been waiting for, to go with the World Eaters, we're going to need, of course, this lovely paint blood for the blood god. And again, you can either use another little sponge like this, so I'm going to grab a good amount of this, or you can use a brush, stipple it on, or whatever you like, but I'm just going to use this, and then we're going to go all over the chain axe because, of course, it has to be done. There we go. Almost less is more, so, but let's just put a good amount around there, and just using the line, the edge of this sponge, I'm just going to kind of dab a little bit on its chest plate, maybe a little bit more, why not? Streak it up, and a bit on his faceplate, why not? Why not? A bit over there. And generally just kind of take it for a walk, you know, you use as much or as little of this lovely stuff as you like. But in the name of the blood god, we will use as much as we like. Yes. And so here we are at the end of the video. So this is how I went about painting the World Eaters for your Space Marine Legions and forces for the Horus Heresy. It's been a really fun one to do, and I like the fact that you don't have to be too precise about getting all the details correct, because you can hide them with some simple applications of weathering and of course lots and lots of blood effects paint. So that means you can save a lot of time and get a lot of these done and onto the table, which is the main aim of these Horus Heresy Marine painting guides, is to try and find a simple way of getting lots of Marines painted so you can fill them in time for the new edition that's coming out. Now, I know there has been a lot of talk about the new edition, there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negatives, but overall I'm excited because it's a new edition, it's a new chance to see some rules rebalanced, see some rules change for the better, to see some legions maybe go from the back foot to be in a better light, given a bit of love. So as well as that, everyone is starting out on the same page really, so there's no huge sort of win rate, if you know what I mean. Everyone's starting out on the same page with the same rules, and yeah, it's going to be a very fun and interesting time. So if you want to join the Horus Heresy, then look no further than my affiliate link for Wayland Games down in the description below. They can save you up to 20% off Games Workshop products, and I believe that pre-orders are still going on at the minute. I think it's out very soon, so grab some last minute pre-orders, or if not, just wait for it to come out and then just order it normally as you would do, and I get a little bit of a kickback from it as well, and that just helps the channel, helps me kind of, you know, purchase some new little bits and pieces for me to paint up and show you all how to do so we can all learn together. And speaking of just little helps and little bits of things you can do to help with the channel is, of course, doing all the usual YouTube stuff. So, you know, like, comment, subscribe if you're new. If you made it all the way and you haven't subscribed, then thank you for subscribing now. You know, welcome aboard. And we got a lot more Heresy to be getting on with. There's going to be another poll up soon for you guys to vote on which Legion you want me to paint next. And if you want to discuss a little bit more about sort of painting and anything hobby related, I do have a new Discord server as well. There's a link to that down in the description below, so I'd love to see you all over there as well. And there is a link for my Instagram page as well at Lynch Paints. There's not much happening over there at the minute just because of being busy with work, and it was my birthday recently, so I kind of took a little bit of time off doing any sort of hobby stuff, but yeah, check me out over there, that'd be grand. And I believe that's everything covered, so have a lovely rest of your weekend, or whenever you kind of watch this, and we'll see you next time. So stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you all soon.